Welcome to the Shoot the Shit podcast. My name is Steven Leitner, and I'm joined by BRG Blake Grantham, Brad Leitner, and the one and only Devin Spellman. Tonight we finally got hockey again, boys. Blackhawks opening night. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not too excited for this season, and that's just because we've got fucking railed by injuries.
Hell yeah.
I don't know why, Devin. I don't know if you want to touch on this a little bit, but how do you feel about the contract extension for Colleton? Do you think he deserved it?
Yeah, that's a good point, Steven. I mean, going into this year, I think the Blackhawks' goal and their only one goal should be to get first overall draft pick in this year's upcoming draft. I feel bad that Patrick Kane has to play on a team with these cats because this is going to be an absolute dumpster fire. We have some good young players on the team. Unfortunately, Kirby, broke his wrist before the World Junior Tournament started. He was going to have a big year. It's unfortunate he's missing a year of development. Patrick Kane, like I said, I see him being like the leader on this team. Him and Duncan Keith. Let's just say what it is. This is Colleton's team. This is Stan Bowman and Jeremy Colleton's team. Colleton didn't deserve the extension. He got it based off merit. He's a young guy. We haven't seen a lot of success with him, but like I said, I just want to see development from our young players first and foremost, and other than that, I don't know what else this year has to bring for us. Blake, do you have anything to jump off with that?
Yeah, I was so excited to see all the young players, especially Kirby Doc. Like, he was gonna light up World Juniors, dude. Like, this dude has NHL experience. He's played in the playoffs, dude. World Juniors against people his age, like, he was gonna be the best player in the World Juniors, no doubt. I think Canada probably would have won if he was captaining their team. I think his talent compared to everybody else that is his age right now is just, I think he's on top of his game. Like, we saw him put up a point per game in the playoffs. So, like you said, like, I'm excited to see the young talent. Ian Mitchell's in his first game, like our second round pick from 2017. He's supposed to be a nice young, two-way defenseman. I'm excited to see some young talent. Hopefully we can get more called up during the season.
Right now, Ryan Strome is slated to be our starting center on
Dylan Strome
opening night tonight. As far as the line goes from there, I'm not too sure exactly who's playing with who. I think it's pretty safe to say that DeBrincat and Strome can be expected to be paired up. They saw a lot of time last year. Andrew Shaw's back from injury. I mean, there's some guys on this team. I mean, Andrew Shaw's a guy I can see getting moved for some draft capital at the deadline. That guy just screams trade to me.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, once we are one of the worst teams in the Western Conference come trade deadline, do you think that we are going to start selling off pieces? And if so, who will those pieces be?
I don't know. I just feel like Stan Bowman doesn't want to sell off pieces. Like, really, I don't, especially not a core piece. I don't think like a Duncan Keith's going to get moved. Obviously, like Brent Seabrook is not going to be able to get moved. And we also have the Seattle expansion coming up. So, like, I feel like Connor Murphy's like a player that's going to get picked in that. Like, there's not really much players that we can move. Yeah, right. I mean, there's not much we can move, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know what we would move. Like,
okay, so here, hypothetical. Let's say the Hawks are one of the bottom three teams in the Western Conference, and with all due respect, that's where we're headed. Do you move a guy like Duncan Keith, Patrick Kane, Andrew Shaw? I think his name is obviously in there, but Keith or Kane. There's actually a case to be made for keeping those guys around simply because these guys are lifelong Blackhawks.
That's where you kind of need to figure out. I don't know what's going on in Bowman's head, but kind of figuring out what his plan is. I think he just wants the veteran players, regardless if they finish first or last. He just wants the veteran players to teach the young guys, show them the ropes. I don't think he's going to get rid of the big three. I don't think that's what he's going to do. I think he's just going to continue to add. I think his goal is to add pieces around those three. And eventually Taves is not going to be the number one center, so finding the next one. And I think that's what he got in Kirby Doc. So I think we're just riding out the rest of the contracts for those guys. I don't think they're going to get traded.
Well, Taves is off the market. He's not getting traded because he's taking the year off, so he's on long injured reserve right now. You can't trade those guys as far as I'm concerned. Um, what I am curious though to find out is, do you trade a guy like Duncan Keith if a team like, oh, I don't know, like Edmonton comes along, a team who's long been starved for defensemen, needs a guy like Duncan Keith, guy with some game left in his legs and championship caliber. Do you trade him? I think you absolutely should. I wouldn't go as far as trading Taves or Kane, but anyone else should be fair game.
I'm with you
Oh,
on that one.
I agree. The only thing that is kind of like Duncan Keith has the power to determine where he wants to go because he's got the no movement in his contract. So he can say no. He can veto any trade he wants if he wants to go somewhere. Like he's gonna have to. The Blackhawks are gonna play out by his terms, and I don't know if that kind of decreases the value that you get in return. Like, are you trading Duncan Keith for a third round draft pick? I don't know if people are okay with that.
What'd you say,
Because it's
Brad?
not like you're going to it's not like you're going to get much in return. What were you saying, Brad?
Bounce off there saying that what are you talking about trading Duncan Keith for a third round draft pick? But I think there's absolutely no way you can trade away Dunks. Honestly, means way too much to the franchise, to the city, and I mean he is your biggest leader as far as on this team is concerned, especially with Johnny now going down with injury and not knowing when his timetable is going to be when he's going to be coming back. So Dunks is literally the leader of this team, and he's the voice of the locker room, and all the players can learn from underneath what he does. And honestly, he's just a workhorse, and I don't really foresee him deteriorating all that much. Everyone says he's taken a step back, and while maybe he's lost half a step, I don't think he's lost a full step or two steps like some other people do. Um, I just think he's too valuable to move on from.
Hey, Brad, you think the value of him staying here for another full wasted season, of him being able to mentor some of our young defensemen, outweighs the potential return of a trade like assets? You think there's more value in Duncan Keith the teacher versus Duncan Keith the hockey player?
I do because we are in a pivotal point right now where we have guys like Ian Mitchell who are going to be having in their first NHL experience this
It's
year,
not just him. There's Boquist, Bowden,
and
Mitchell. They've
Boquist.
got a slew
Yeah,
of young defensemen.
yeah. So Boquist is still in his is like in the growing pains of his career right now, right? Boquist hasn't really taken that step that we know he can, but Duncan Keith, he's learning from literally a Hall of Fame, three-time Stanley Cup champion, Norris Trophy winner defenseman, how to prepare, how to train for these seasons, what it takes to be successful. And Ian Mitchell hasn't even played, and I don't think he's played an NHL game yet. This is going to be his first taste in the big leagues. Who's he going to learn from? Seabrook's not available either. So it's like, if these guys don't have people to learn from, are they really going to be ready and successful coming forward? So I do believe that he's going to be way more valuable to the team than he will be as a hockey player, like as a trade piece.
I don't know if any of our young defensemen need to be learning from Seabrook right now with the way that guy skates, but I hear what you're saying.
And like I said, I don't think we're going to see Duncan Keith get traded or any of our core players for that matter. And if Duncan Keith's traded, who are the young defensemen going to look up to? Connor Murphy turning the puck over? Like, there's just no other defense. They're not going to learn from anybody else. I feel like that might stunt their development. And like I said, with with the no move contract, like even if you do trade him, you're not going to get. I don't think you're going to get value you're not going to get anything worth the return, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's just I bring up the point because I hate to say that. I hate to see one of the Chicago teams mired in mediocrity, as Rick Hahn so famously quoted back in 2016 when the White Sox embarked on their rebuild. I see a lot of similarities happening with the Cubs right now, Steve, to be completely honest with you. It's a team that's still holding on to these veteran pieces that we know are good to a certain degree, but it's not translating to wins. I mean, for God's sake, the Cubs with most of that World Series core still intact, didn't win a game against the one season removed 100 loss Miami Marlins. I just want a clear direction. It's you can definitely accelerate a rebuild. I feel like if you sell off pieces that are helping you win, but you don't necessarily need that right now. You need the assets. You need to replenish the organization. I would like to see if the Hawks are, let's say, 24 wins, 35 losses, or That's not a good example. It's probably going to be less than that, but you know what I mean? If we're in that
I get what
area,
you're saying.
I want to see our veterans get traded. I want to see Taves, Kane, and Keith retire Blackhawks more than anyone, but I think you have to look at the better overall picture of the franchise. I mean, Jesus, like I don't care to be making friends at this point. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for the draft pick that's coming back. We will definitely use it on the next Duncan Keith, you know?
I'm with you,
That's
Devin.
just how I
Just
feel.
so I'm straight, you
Yeah.
want to get you don't mind trading away any three of the core players, or I guess if you consider
Depending on
Seabrook to
what
be
you
the
get
fourth.
back, if a team comes along with multiple first-round picks for a guy like Patrick Kane, I think you have to consider it. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of Blackhawk fans, but I mean, what do you want? Do you want wins or do you want losses, but you still get to, hold the fact that Kane still wears an Indian jersey?
I get the feeling that I don't know how you can trade away probably the best, what I view to be the best American-born hockey player
Brad.
to
This is
play the
all
game.
speculation.
Brad.
I mean, he is no doubt the best American player of all time. I mean, like Steve said earlier, they all control their own destiny. They have full movement clauses. So even if there was a trade, they would have to approach Kaner or Taves or Keith, and they would have to submit a list of teams that they're okay going to. It's a whole process that hasn't even begun to happen yet. So this is all very much speculation.
And to add, I mean, any player can get traded. It's the NHL. I mean, Wayne Gretzky got traded. He's the greatest player of all time. Like anything,
Oh yeah.
anything can
But
happen.
was that
And
really a smart
Edmonton
move?
actually did really well from that.
What you
Yeah,
said, Devin?
I don't remember the trade, but yeah, go ahead, Devin.
They received an absolute ransom for Gretzky, and they wound up winning more cups after he was gone. So, like I said, I don't know how you can say that didn't benefit the Oilers.
I'd trade everybody, to be honest. I don't give a shit.
Hey, I agree.
Blake's
Our
sick of the Blackhawks
There you go.
already. The season
Hey,
hasn't even started.
we're not going to do anything. Our goalie, like Devin says, we're going to be a bottom 5 team. Our
Yeah.
goalie tandem is Malcolm Subban and Colin Delia.
Yeah.
Like
Oh my
every
goodness
single puck's
gracious.
going to go in the net.
Yep.
Like I would.
I find more, I guess, a better way to not say just like a wholesale fire sale changes. It's like we're already kind of are in a mini rebuild with the young players we're already kind of trying to bring up. It's just they get there in time, and then also if you could do a little bit of a mini rebuild, kind of like the Penguins did for a couple years. I feel like you might be able to squeeze one more cup out of the 3 core players that we have on this.
Yeah, that maybe like, but when they were more in their prime when they were doing that mini rebuild. Like by the time like all of these players would be good and like after they're drafted and developed and playing in the NHL, they're going to be in their late 30s. Jonathan Taves is going to be making 10.5 on the third line. Like I mean, the cap's expected to go down. Like that's one huge piece to this too. Is like our cap is stagnant. Like we might have to move one of these players out if you want to be competitive down the line because the cap's not changing, and 10.5 million cap hit is a lot. So that's just another thing to consider in wanting to move a player. But that also makes these players harder to move because who can have enough cap space when everybody's in the same situation.
I think that's a really good point, Stephen. I think it's also important to remember that there is going to be an expansion draft, and guys are going to get taken. Now, who the Blackhawks will protect in that upcoming draft after this season is over, that will be very interesting to see, because they're going to have to make a choice. Do I protect these core guys that have been here forever, or do we protect these young guys who we think have a very high ceiling? Guys like Kubalik, and Strome and DeBrincat. The list goes on.
Here's the thing: if our core players are already protected, if you have a no movement contract, you're protected. So Taves, Kane, Keith, Seabrook, they're already all protected. That's forced like our protection. So those are 4 players that are already protected. I would protect Kubalik. I think young players that haven't played 2 years in the NHL are exempt from the expansion draft, so we don't have to worry about like a Kirby Dach, a Boquist, or an Ian Mitchell in that case.
Well, that's good. Like I said, I would hate to see one of our good young defensemen go, not named Connor Murphy, obviously, 'cause he's not good or young. But you'd hate
Agreed.
to see him get plucked up in the Rule 5. Boquist was looking real good towards the end of last year. So.
Mm-hmm.